There's a lot that made me fall in love with the Jurassic Park franchise to begin with. Some of it was the awe and wonder of seeing these dinosaurs, these prehistoric creatures brought back to life for this spectacle movie. But a lot of what I really enjoyed about it is a lot of the tension, suspense, and horror of playing God, and then having to reap the consequences of that level of manhandling of science. The horror of having to survive in a prehistoric age where dinosaurs are back on top of the food chain, leaving us dwarfed to the bottom, left with only our wits, and the only way that we can survive it is to outsmart them. And this is something that really made me fall in love with Jurassic Park. This is what makes me love the first one, and so many of those sequences that I love and remember to this day are based in horror. The first scene where the T-Rex wreaks havoc in the rain, that will be something I will never forget the first time I watched. The scene where Grant and Lex have to stay frozen and make sure that the T-Rex can't see them, as well as just the vast amount of great velociraptor scenes, especially in the first 3 movies. All that stuff is just amazing quality, very suspenseful stuff, and that is something that I think that the Jurassic Park and now Jurassic World franchise kind of lost sight of. It was a really exciting time to be a Jurassic Park fan in 2015, getting this really big, epic resurgence to the franchise with Chris Pratt. Very exciting stuff, and I remember being so hyped for that movie. And for the most part, I think that it definitely delivered on what I wanted. Great action, spectacle. It's a little bit dumber, not as intelligent as the original, or even I'd argue The Lost World, but it's still a very solid continuation of the franchise, and it still kept some of those themes intact. And this is something that I would say is probably one of my more unpopular opinions, but I think that it was carried through well in Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom. Questions about whether the dinosaurs should go extinct, who has the right to make that call, what dignifies life, what gives sentience, what makes someone human, what makes something alive, and kind of where you have to cross that line because of what science can do. The ideas of extinction as well, I think, play into that story really well. And in that movie, it seemed like they were actually trying to go back to some of those horror roots, especially the beginning scene kind of gave you a taste for that. And I think that it's really Jurassic World Dominion that just completely lost the plot with that. Unfortunately, Jurassic World Dominion is kind of where things took a turn for the worst, in my opinion. That's where basically it established itself, this Jurassic World franchise, as this Marvel-esque action, over-the-top stunts, really focused on that kind of stuff, making quips and jokes. Characters don't always act like they were previously shown to act like, and although I'd argue seeing the old cast return is easily the best part of that movie, they don't exactly act in character. They act a little bit more Marvel-esque, for lack of a better term, and I think the movie greatly suffered because it doesn't have any of that urgency, that horror, and there could have been great horror to the idea of humans having to learn to coexist with dinosaurs in society. There could be a lot of scary scenarios I could cook up in my head just off the top of my head, thinking about what it would be like trying to live with them. What if they came to the mainland? How would we survive? How would people adapt to that? And the movie kind of just shifts its focus on weird espionage, locusts, and other shit. Really does not focus on what was supposed to be the plot that was set up in the last movie, and instead opts for something a lot more safe, kind of dumb, less challenging or interesting. I think that that's one of the greatest missteps and easily cemented Dominion as the worst of the franchise. With the new announcement of a Jurassic World movie coming out next year already, something that I had a lot of curiosity about is what kind of direction they're going to take. And although I don't think we're going to get any of the returning cast back from the Jurassic World movies, it's still seeming like we're going to be getting this more action-heavy, spectacle, kind of dumber version of it, a more Fast and Furious-like version of Jurassic World, and I'm kind of disappointed to hear that. Last we heard, David Leitch, who directed Deadpool 2 and Hobbs and Shaw, movies that I really very much enjoy, was attached to direct, and I think that that's a huge mistake because it shows kind of where their head's at in the direction that they want to take this franchise in once again. And the problem with it is that they were still rewarded for putting out a lesser, dumber, worse written movie in Jurassic World Dominion. They still made $1 billion at the end of the day. They still had that cash cow tapped, so now they know that they could still get away with doing stuff like that. Thankfully, we have the writer who I believe did the first 2, and maybe that could add something interesting to it. But at this point, they're saying that they're looking for a director that they don't want to have a vision, and they want them to just basically show up, shoot the movie, and then that's it. Because they're putting it in such a tight release window, I don't know how the hell they're going to make it happen by July of next year. It feels like the franchise has really lost the plot at this point. It doesn't feel like it's oriented towards horror or anything scary, and that's something that I really want the franchise to get back to. to. You could have a great, small, contained Jurassic Park movie set after Fallen Kingdom or set after even Dominion, of maybe a family that gets stuck in the wrong place at the wrong time with dinosaurs and now they have to survive. That could be scary, that could be kind of refreshing and a bit of a nice change of pace compared to what the last few installments have given us. And that's the direction that I hope that they focus up and, sort of take, because at this point I think people are getting sick of this version and this iteration of Jurassic Park. It seems like people want to go back to the earlier movies and maybe have some interesting questions posed about science. And there's a lot that we could talk about nowadays. There's a lot of scientific developments that I think would be particularly relevant to Jurassic World and Park. And I hope that they don't just go back to Chris Pratt on a motorcycle chasing a velociraptor and doing jumps and shit and stunts and just dumb action. I don't want that out of Jurassic Park. I want a little bit more out of it. I think the commentary of Jurassic Park has stayed very poignant and it's made it continue to be a relevant and talked about movie to this day. People love Jurassic Park, and there's been a whole generation now that's grown up with these Jurassic World movies. And there's definitely different angles to this material that can be taken. I love this franchise and I really hope that it kind of returns to some of those roots that it had going back to the beginning. Some of Michael Crichton's commentary on these ideas. I'd honestly, if I had my way, I would love a hard R remake of Jurassic Park that has really adult themes, goes way too far, is very violent, and locks in on these questions that were being posed to begin with. There's no way in hell that that would ever happen, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you think that they should do with Jurassic Park movies next. I'm very interested to hear you guys' takes. Let me know what you guys think. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.